Okay, and we're rolling. Right. So, welcome. These are the One More dual driver over-ear headphones, which I've actually upgraded or modified a little bit. And basically, I've changed the pads. I want to talk about that. I have done a video already on this, and go ahead and have a look. And I've described them as a very good triple driver headphone, very good in sound. I want to mention, in case you didn't see that video, this here is simply a covering I slapped on. This came from a DT150 by Biodynamic, and it's a jacket that fits over the headphone, and it's really nice. It's just a convenient thing I put on it, so please ignore that. Now, what I've done here is I've changed the pads, and I've piggybacked the pads. Basically, these are the Brainwave velvet pads that you can easily buy. Very hard to keep clean. You can wash them very easily. You can even put them in a washing machine. They're very comfortable and very large. So the problem with the One More original pads, which you'll have a look at in a moment, is that it's half on ear and half over ear. They're not just that big to fit over a big ear. Now, I happen to have small ears, but nonetheless they were okay, but they weren't that comfortable, and it's easy to see how somebody with very big ears can have problems. So these pads completely solve the comfort issue. They're stellar in terms of their comfort, no problem whatever. In fact, they're so comfortable I don't even want to take them off when I have them on. They're really fantastic. But let me show you by taking this pad off for a second. So these just simply fit over the shells and the cups, if I can get it off. Bit of a struggle, says he. Not hard to get on or off. There we go. Now, so as you can see, I piggybacked it over the original pad. Okay, and the original pad are lovely. The problem is the original pads are actually glued on, and of course you can rip it off or prise them off if you want, and then put on whatever pads you want over. But I noticed that when you squeeze the pads, the original pads, they really squeeze down to nothing. So it's very easy just to squeeze them in behind your bigger pads and put on whatever pads you're putting on. Now, these pads by Brainwaves, very easy to buy, probably about $15 or €15 or whatever they are. I've used them quite a bit. You can get them in leatherette, or you can get them in different colours of velour or cloth, like you see here. Really comfortable. They're very large, and as you can see, they're much bigger in terms of the ear cavity, and there are no problems, no matter what kind of ears you have, fitting onto these things here. Hence my motivation to try them, and I put them on. So that's how it goes. These are simply being piggybacked, if you like, over the original pads. So there's no surgery involved, you're doing no damage or anything else. Now, I highly recommend them because for a couple of reasons. First of all, they solve the comfort completely. The original earphones, the original pads, I think they have a minus 23 decibel rating in terms of isolation, sound isolation, or something like that. So therefore the isolation now is still very good, excuse me, but not as good as it was, probably a minus 19 or something like that. It's still a closed headphone with these red velvet pads on. So you'll still be fine. Now, sound effects. When you put on the pads, what sound changes do you have? Oh, well, let me tell you, it's extraordinary because, first of all, the sound cavity, as you can see, is increased in size greatly. It makes it more comfortable, but it makes the sound arena or the sound stage much better than it was. Not so much wider than it was. I think it is a bit wider, if I'm honest. Let's just put on this again. As you can see, now hopefully you'll see that there if the camera's got that. It makes them obviously a bit deeper. No problems with comfort, but it makes the sound stage a bit bigger. And above all, it fills the atrium sound around you is bigger and larger, and it's really wonderful. And I'm delighted to say, so every sound it sounds like you're in a bigger atrium, if you like, or a bigger sound arena, if you want. I'm happy to say that, in fact, the rest of the sound signature is almost not affected at all, except for the very high. I'll put up a frequency graph of the original pads. Except for the very high region, over 10 kilohertz, for example. That's tremendously high normally in these headphones. You still have those highs. Most people don't really listen or hear much above 10 kilohertz. And you still have that detail in the very, very highs. It still sparkles beautifully, in fact. It might be ever so slightly diffused. So when I measure them, and I intend to measure them and compare both types of pads with these headphones, when I do so, I expect that that's the only region I'm going to get a change in the sound signature. Anything else, as far as I can detect in my ears, is absolutely unchanged. Everything sounds like it's bigger. The sound stage is fractionally wider. It sounds like you're in a very large arena. And it's really amazing. These are one of the very best headphones I've ever experienced. The only headphones that surpass this in my experience, and we're talking about headphones under €500, is the Shure SRH 940, which are, I call them the Silver Sams. They're just absolutely fantastic, and they give outstanding sparkling highs and amazing molecular performance. It's just incredible. But they're flawed by a horrible headband that breaks after about a year or 18 months. That was the Shures. But these, anyway, they're very, very close to the Shures in my estimation. And in some ways might be better. I don't have a pair of Shures around now to directly compare. So when you put on the pads, that's the effects you get. Enormous soundstage, not so much wider, it is a bit wider, but higher and deeper. And everything sounds bigger. And it's really quite incredible. You'll go many a long day before you find headphones this good, really. They're fantastic. There are not many headphones that I've ever heard being this good. I don't think I've heard any headphone being this good, I'll be honest with you. And I've had, in the last 15 years, probably about 20 pretty serious headphones that I've lived with for a long time and tried out all kinds of things, including the HD 650s, for example, and the beloved 712s by AKG, which are my go-to these days. They're really fantastic. But these are really terrific. So, well worth the €15 spent to pop them on and try. And that's what I would advise. Rather than trying to take off these, you can take off these and put on whatever pads you want, of course. And now you're not limited just to this. You could try, for example, alpha pads, which are very deep, and other deep pads. You could also get round pads if you wanted to. You'll get big round pads if you wanted to source from brain waves or other people. And by all means, try them. These, anyway, work very, very well. They've got to be the most comfortable headphone now I've ever had in my ears. And you just don't want to take them off. But the sound, the things they do to the sound, you don't lose any quality, you don't lose any detail. You seem to gain somehow texture in guitar strums and all kinds of instruments like that when they're plucked and they're played. It's really terrific. And what else? Yeah, now these are a very low powered headphone. I think it's in the spec, it's something like 50 milliwatts per channel is all they take in power. So anything will drive these normally. With these pads extended on, these extended pads on, you'll find that you might have to put up the volume a little bit more, because after all, your arena is actually now bigger, so that's what you might find. But that's no problem. However, I would say don't be tempted to use big, high-powered amplifiers, because they're not able to take this. And don't be ever tempted to drive anything in the order of 1 watt into your ears of power. You'll go out of your mind if you ever try that. Forget that. So now I have tried these with a valve amp, and they're very nice. There's nothing wrong with the valve amp. It's putting them into the headphone, you get a different shape of sound. But really, it's not needed for these headphones. The articulation is wonderful. It's kind of addictive to sit there and listen to all kinds of well recorded sounds, and they're so wide, they're so entertaining, because you just don't know how they're going to represent the next song. And I end up trying everything from country music to classical to everything, and they're absolutely amazing. So I'm just amazed at how putting on these pads has really very reliably preserved the sound signature, and you don't get anything misplaced. There are no holes in the frequency response graph either. You don't get things out of balance or instruments that are kind of half missing or de-emphasized. You don't get anything wrong. The balance and the sound signature, in my opinion, of these headphones are among the very best I've ever heard, including the aforementioned Shores I was talking about. They really are a fantastic sound signature. So with these headphones, I actually recommend to the manufacturer that they consider putting on piggyback type earpads like these as an option to the customer. It would be a good option. So feel free to experiment and all of that. Like I say, you just put them on over, and it fits over the steel rim, just like these here, and that's it. And they're so comfortable. They're also very, very stable. The pads never come off, because they're tightened up with the pressure of the ones underneath them, behind them. What happens, I suppose, is that sonically the pads behind are now compressed when they're under pressure, but at the same time they retain a lot of their sound qualities, and the sponge inside these big pads then do the rest, and it just works out fantastic. So if you have a pair of these headphones already, I highly recommend you get yourself a pair of Brainwaves pads like this, or some other big, larger piggyback pads. Put them on, try them, put them on directly over the existing pads, and see how it goes, see how it works out. It will definitely improve the comfort. You will not recognize it in terms of comfort. But in sound quality, wow, they're just fantastic. Okay, thanks a lot. See ya.